Animal advocates brought along their canine companions today to push for tougher animal cruelty laws at the Capitol. The first ever Animal Advocacy Day was actually designed to help bring together pet owners, rescue shelters, law enforcement agencies, and legislators. They are lobbying for several measures that would make New York's animal cruelty laws the toughest in the nation. Here to talk more about this is one of the event's organizers, Assemblyman Jim Tedisco. Assemblyman, how are you?
I'm great, Liz. We had a great day today. Had close to 400 to 500 people there, and as you've mentioned them all, I had my lovely dog Gracie there, a 3-year-old corgi, and it was just a good day to educate the public. We had law enforcement officials there, and it didn't seem like 14 years since we passed that animal cruelty felony law, Buster's Law, but now it's time to strengthen it because it seems we've got an epidemic of animal cruelty incidences take place not only here in the capital region but across the state. So it's good to know that when we're doing important things like passing maybe the first on-time budget in a long time that actually cuts spending, and we're working on a cap on property taxes, and we're working on rent control and mandate relief and ethics laws, that we can really stop and do something for public safety, including our animals and the citizens of New York State.
Well, actually, your dog is actually here. She's running rampant through the studio somewhere. So
she was locked up in the LOB. She needs some exercise now, Liz.
Clearly, well, she hung around with legislators all day, and so that's a very taxing experience.
Oh, I know that.
So seriously, though, look, this is a crowd pleaser. Okay, there are a lot of people out there who really care about animals. I'm sure that there are people who actually even vote solely based on what you may actually do if you have a dog, if you have a cat as an elected official. It's almost like having a kid for some people. However, what's behind this in terms, there's some serious things behind this, because the idea here is that cruelty to animals actually could be an entry-level crime that leads to serious stuff like murder or cruelty to humans.
Well, to give you an example, back 14 years ago when Buster, a little 18-month-old tabby kitten, was doused with kerosene and lit on fire by a 16-year-old boy. It didn't survive, of course, but 3 years later, that 19-year-old boy raped a young 12-year-old girl in a park in Schenectady. Son of Sam, Ted Bundy, Dahmer, the Columbine shooters all had a history of abusing animals before they went on to become serial murderers. It's a bridge crime. When I first went to the chief of police in Schenectady and said, can we track down this young person who did this? He said, Jim, it's a misdemeanor and we can't expend a lot of manpower. I said, should it be a felony? He said, absolutely. The FBI categorizes this as a bridge crime. And, you know, even if it wasn't a bridge crime, these are pets which give us unconditional love. They help our quality of life. And Liz, you know, they were the first ones to go in that building and track down a vicious terrorist named Osama bin Laden with those Navy SEALs. So
I knew you were going to go there, Sullivan. I knew you were going to go there.
Yep.
Well, look, I mean, there are some of the things that you are proposing, like, for example, a statewide registry. There's already of animal abusers. There's already a statewide registry of you know, Megan's Law, for example, of sexual predators or sexual offenders. Yep. Is your idea that these things would actually be somehow linked so you could cross-reference them?
Well, I think that would be a part of the eventuality of what would take place. If we can get these individuals who commit this crime and are convicted, first of all, we have legislation that says they would never be able to own a companion pet again, because I think they've lost that privilege when they do some of the dastardly things they're going to have to do to be convicted of animal cruelty. But to make sure they are not sold a pet or an animal shelter isn't giving them one, they should be on a statewide register. We also have a bill for psychological evaluation and treatment, because we know these people have psychological problems. We can't just lock them up for 6 months, a year, or 2 years and let them back out, because they'll be committing the same crimes. We've got some bills for animal fighting, a bill that says if you commit a different crime, but in the course of that different crime you also injure an animal or are cruel to an animal, that would be a separate conviction in and of itself, because we have to send a message. I think Gandhi said you could judge the quality of a people of a country by how they treat their animals. And again, they give us unconditional love, but it's an indicator that these individuals are going to go on to hurt our sons, our daughters, our wives, our brothers, our sisters, and our family members. So this is a public safety issue. Yeah,
Assemblyman, though, there might, just to play devil's advocate for a moment, I mean, there might be some people out there who say, all of this is really wonderful, but we've got holes in the existing fabric of the laws of New York State where people are actually not getting the kind of protections that they need. You have public safety issues that that leave people open to harm. And so if you actually manage to enact some of this stuff before you address issues that have to do with voters. Isn't that sort of putting the cart before the horse?
Well, we've done several pieces of legislation, you know, for DWI when you have a child in the car. They're talking about legislation when you're smoking cigarettes in a vehicle to enhance child protection and things of that nature. I don't think because you can't do the great, sometimes you don't do the good. We have some very strict laws for the abuse of children right now and domestic violence, and this particular case of animal cruelty really does relate to domestic violence also. It's in many instances the other parent or the other domestic partner will try to injure an animal or companion pet just to get back at the other spouse. So I don't think one is mutually exclusive of the other. I think we have to do both. We have to protect our families and our children and our loved ones, but you can do both by just laws that relate directly to people, but also laws that relate to our companion pets, which really are a part of our family, and they do give us unconditional love. And they walk into burning buildings, Liz, and they take bullets for law enforcement officials.
Do you know, Assemblyman, which one of these measures? I mean, you've got actually some. You are in the minority, of course. You've got some majority sponsors. You've Greg Ball, who's a senator in the Republican majority in the Senate, is sponsoring some of this. But do you have any majority membership sponsors in your House? Because obviously that's how bills get moved in your chamber.
Oh yes, we have Lenthal has a fighting bill. Paulin has a bill, and there's several other Democratic members. In fact, that's the great part of this particular issue and the way we made history today with Animal Advocacy Day. There were senators and assembly persons there from both sides of the aisle, Democrat and Republican, who are sponsoring their own bills. They're cross-endorsing Republican bills. Republican legislators are endorsing Democratic bills. So I'll tell you, nobody has the corner on animal protection and public safety. It's not Democratic bills, it's not Republican bills, and that's the one great thing about this issue, and that's why I love working on it, because it crosses party lines. We all know that we should be protecting the least of our creatures as well as our family members.
Yeah, I'm actually curious what took you so long. I mean, Buster's Law obviously was 1999. I know that you were involved in that. And Animal Advocacy Day, the first ever, you've got everything else under the sun at the Capitol. You've got Dairy Day, you've got Farm Day, you've got days to recognize firefighters, you've got days to recognize the military. What happened that what brought this about?
Well, I think it's a sense of priorities. You mentioned it. You know, should we be working on animal cruelty and animal advocacy while we're working on a $10 billion deficit or keeping sexual predators in prison? I think our conference, our Assembly Republican Conference, really had a lot of press conferences and led the way with keeping sexual predators off the street to protect our families and our loved ones. And now it's time to take a stand, because we've seen so much of this. It almost seems like it's an epidemic right now, and we think there's a lot of slaps on the wrist. We think law enforcement, our judicial system, and some of our DAs, although Jim Murphy was there today, and Jim Murphy, our district attorney from Saratoga, has done a tremendous job, has really led the way. There was just an incident where an adult had a puppy that soiled the carpet, and he crushed that little puppy with a couch. Well, that man got 1 year in prison from Jim Murphy, a district attorney. 14 years ago, that wouldn't have happened because it was only a misdemeanor. So we think the time is right now, because we're seeing a lot of this. We had, as you know, Rescue Inc. These are the tough guys, motorcycle riders, national TV show. They're tough guys with big hearts who go out and rescue animals. And we broke down that stereotype today. You don't have to be soft to want to love and protect companion pets, because it relates to protecting your loved ones and our families across the state.
Well, I actually own 2 cats. I don't consider myself a pushover, but they actually kind of have me wrapped around their paws.
I know how that is. I got 2 dogs and 2 cats. I got a menagerie, Liz.
Yeah, I know you do. I know you do. Thank you very much. I think it's 2 cats and a dog. Is that right, Assemblyman?
2 dogs and 2 cats.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Thanks for bringing Gracie. I'm sorry we can't mic her up and bring her onto the show, but hopefully we've shown some video of her. I want to thank you very much, Assemblyman Jim Tedisco, for coming by.
Always great to be with you, Liz. Thank you.
Thanks, Assemblyman.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.